Some stories just debunk you. 1,000 years. There's been one that has captivated minds, inspired faith, and even baffled a biggest skeptic. The story of an empty tomb. Why was it empty? Was it some desperate late night mission by scared followers? A simple mix up, like losing your car in a big parking lot? Or could the most wildest, most unbelievable possibility be the one that makes the most sense, that Jesus did rise from the dead? It's a question that honestly still gives me goosebumps. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into the heart of the resurrection story, focusing on something absolutely crucial: the empty tomb. We're going to walk through the solid historical reasons why that tomb was, in fact, empty. We'll then tackle all those other theories you hear, the ones that try to explain it away, and see how they stack up against the evidence. Ultimately, I think you'll see why the most powerful, most logical explanation is the one that's been echoed for millennia, that he's not here and he's risen. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, because this is a story that truly matters. Here are 4 key reasons why the tomb was really empty. Let's just get this out of the table right away. Most scholars, believers and unbelievers alike, agree on one foundational truth: the tomb was undeniably empty. Think about it from the perspective of the people in power back then. The Jewish leaders, the mighty Roman authorities, they had every reason, every motive to squash this whole resurrection rumor. All they had to do was parade Jesus' body around the streets, right? Problem solved. But their only response, the disciples stole it. That's not a denial, friends. That's basically an admission. And here's a detail that if you're making up the resurrection story, you'd never include. The first witnesses to the empty tomb were women. In the first century, a woman's testimony had virtually no legal standing. So if you're trying to convince people of a grand miracle, why would you put women in the forefront and center? It's an embarrassing detail for the early church. And that's precisely why it screams historical authenticity rather than forgery, because it's messy, it's not neat. And that's usually a sign of truth, not a convenient invention. They just reported what actually happened, and no matter how it bucked tradition, they simply told the truth as they heard and as they saw. Then there's the sheer audacity of the location. If Jesus' body was still chilling in that tomb, Jerusalem, the very city where he was crucified, under the watchful eyes of his enemies, would be the absolute worst place to start shouting about his resurrection. Their message would have been shut down on day one if the tomb wasn't empty. The body would have been paraded around like a prize. It's like trying to claim your car was stolen while it's parked right outside your house. It just doesn't fly. Finally, we have the incredible speed at which this belief spread. We're talking about incredibly early evidence of Christian creeds. Take 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verses 3 to 8, for example. Scholars tell us this ancient Christian creed was being recited and shared within 5 years of the crucifixion. It explicitly states Jesus' burial and his resurrection. This isn't some legend that slowly grew over generations like a tall tale passed down. This core belief was being proclaimed immediately, right when Christianity was beginning to breathe. It's like the earliest form of a newsflash, not a whisper network. What are the alternative explanations? So if the tomb was indeed truly empty, then what else have people suggested truly happened? Let's be honest, humans are great at coming up with alternative explanations when faced with something extraordinary. We're going to meticulously walk through the most popular naturalistic theories, the ones that try to explain away how everything happened without anything supernatural, and see how logically they hold up. Get ready to put on your detective hats with me. Theory number 1, the disciples stole the body. This was the very first counterclaim, even back then. But let's really think about it. How likely is it that a group of terrified, scattered fishermen who just abandoned their leader, mind you, suddenly found the courage, the military strategy, and the skill to overpower heavily armed, discipled Roman guards stationed at the tomb? Even if they did, would all of them then willingly endure beatings, imprisonment, and horrific martyrdoms throughout their lives for a lie they had fabricated without no game, without no fame or money on the line for them to acquire? People die for what they believe to be true. They don't willingly die for a hoax they invented. It just doesn't make human sense. Theory number 2, the woman who went to the wrong tomb. This one suggests the women, in their grief and confusion, simply went to the wrong tomb. But wait, all of them? And then Peter and John, who ran to the tomb and entered it, also went to the wrong one. And here's the kicker: if this were true, the Jewish authorities, who were desperate to stop this resurrection claims, could have effortlessly debunked everything by simply pointing to the correct tomb where Jesus' body lay. This theory just doesn't collapse. It shatters under the weight of logical scrutiny. Theory number 3, Jesus didn't actually die, or more popularly known as the swoon theory. This is perhaps the most desperate theory out there. It claims Jesus didn't actually die on the cross. He merely swooned or fell into a coma. Then supposedly he woke up in the cold tomb and just walked out. But let's remember the sheer brutality of a Roman crucifixion: massive blood loss, severe trauma, zero medical care, and then a Roman spear piercing his side, confirming death. Even if by some impossible miracle he survived all that, could a severely wounded, emaciated man single-handedly move a massive stone over power guards, walk miles, and then appear to his disciples, convincing them that he had triumphed over death, not just barely survived it? This theory stretches credulity far beyond the miraculous claim of a resurrection. Honestly, if he survived all that, he wouldn't be inspiring faith. He'd be in the Guinness Book of World Records for most incredible survival. Theory number 4, the body was moved. Another theory is that the body was simply moved. But by whom? The Romans. Why? They had no motive to create a problem for themselves. The Jewish authorities, again, why would they create the very thing that they were trying to stop? The disciples, well, we had already gone through that, to the stolen body theory, which you have already debunked. Every option falls apart when you consider the motive and the timing. None of these groups, apart from the disciples, would benefit from an empty tomb unless they believed in the resurrection. And only the disciples ever proclaimed that. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Isn't this just a story that was added to the Christian narrative much later? Absolutely not. The earliest Christian writings, like Paul's letters, which were written in the 50s AD, explicitly include the empty tomb and the resurrection. They reference it as common foundational knowledge. It's not some late breaking news. It was part of the original message, part of the bedrock of their faith. Or maybe couldn't just be a metaphor. Again, no. Metaphors don't leave behind empty tombs. The early church didn't face brutal persecution and willing to die for beautiful poetry or a comforting metaphor. They died for what they had literally saw and believed to be the historical reality. You do not get nailed to a cross for a clever analogy, do you? So the empty tomb isn't just a fascinating historical puzzle or some academic debate I'm sharing with you today. It's an undeniable invitation. If that tomb was truly empty, then Jesus isn't just a wise teacher or a historical figure we politely remember. He's precisely who he claimed to be, the resurrected Son of God. If that's true, if that's a historical reality, then you and I are absolutely compelled to reckon with him, not just as a moral guide, but as the living, victorious King of all creation. It changes everything about how we see the world, and more importantly, how we see ourselves and the future. If this deep dive into the empty tomb has sparked your curiosity or just got you thinking, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, because in our very next episode, we're going to explore another profound piece of evidence, something that deeply human and undeniably powerful: the radical transformation of Jesus' disciples. How did a group of terrified cowards become fearless, bold witnesses willing to die for their faith? What happened to them? Trust me, you won't want to miss it. Thanks for being here. And remember to tell someone that Jesus saves.